Galactic Cruise from Kinson Key Games is a large box game with a large footprint on the table, a really big rulebook, and a lot of cool looking components. But is there a good game underneath that all? And how do I think it fits with us? Well, stick around after break and I'll get into all of that. So Galactic Cruise. This is a game right up front. Looked really awesome on Kickstarter. Kind of like the way it sounded with some of the way that certain things acted and maneuvered, the way the look of the board and all the components were. And then when I got it and just lifted off the box cover, it was just such a feeling of joy because they had this whole like onboarding packet thing that you get when you first open up. So you open that up, they got a letter like welcoming you to Galactic Cruise, very thematic. And then there's this little leaflet of preparing for your journey or whatever it is. And it shows you where does everything go? How does everything fit together? It shows, this part's for expansions, this part's for this part's for that. It is probably the best unboxing experience I've ever had. If there's any that were similar, I can't think of them right now. I've done a few where you'd think it would be good because you open it up and they have those little things in there, but they didn't go into the detail and had as well of an example and had everything laid out as well as this did with the diagrams. So like I said, it's very rare. Like I enjoy unboxing games. I enjoy punching out games. It's just, part of the experience and the thrill. But when you have a game take that much pride and that much care and detail to making sure that you can get it out of the box, get everything where it needs to be and ready to go to play, that just accelerates it for me and just drives me to want to play that game more because it shows that they do care about the details. So that your experience should be good based on that. And that being said, the experience with this, we really enjoyed this game. This is a game that it definitely conveys that feeling of, booking these flights, having to go through these steps. It's not simply going to be like grab a spaceship and just send people to space. No, you got to make sure you get those people for space. You need to make sure you're gathering the resources. You're needing to be able to make sure your ship is ready to go. Your ship has a pilot. And with that, like I said, it does convey that feeling. It does convey it where you are, having to go through and make these choices. And how do you want to have this space shuttle go? Do you want it to be a mixture of everything? Do you want it to focus on one type so that it scores the best? And just all those decision spaces that this wraps into this game just really does put you in that realm of, how am I best going to manage my ships? And by having that thinking with it, it definitely helps you get into the gameplay and maneuver the game and make the game make sense as you're learning it and being taught it or even teaching it. It helps you be able to go, all right, the first thing we're going to do is we need to get supplies. And you need to have those supplies to be able to build out your spaceship. And you're going to need to have them to be able to feed and sustain the people who are going on these trips, etc. And speaking about all those things, let's go ahead and look at the stuff that's inside the box, all the components. I did do an unboxing. I'll put a link to that up above. There's one down below too. And this game, as I already said, has it's a place for everything. They have 2 expansions out. There is a place for those as well. They left the room in there, so if you get these expansions, they're ready to go. The rulebook itself walks you through everything. Very nice, very easy. They basically start off with, here's kind of the setup. Then here's what everything is about the board, and here's everything with this. And then, we're going to get into a bunch of the broader points, and we're going to start breaking it down finer. And it goes in a turn order, but it says, first thing you're going to do is you're going to advance your cruise. You don't need to worry about this right now. Go to these pages, read that, come back, and then we'll explain. Then you'll be able to understand this better. So the rulebook itself laid out really well. There's a section in the rulebook already for both expansions. So if you do get the expansions, you're not having to go through a bunch of different rulebooks. Also, then if you want to just read the rules on the new expansions to see if they are even something you're going to want, you have the rules right there in front of you. They have spaces for more stuff that's coming. I know they're going to be launching another Kickstarter here for even more content. And it's not even just the rule book and the way everything got put together. Your little wood development pieces, they're big, they're thick, they're chunky. They aren't just like basic boring cubes. Nothing in this seems basic or boring. Mostly so the agenda cards, they are just words, so there are no graphics there. But I think if there was it would take away from what they are, because that is supposed to be your agenda. That's supposed to be more business orientated. So the lack of basically decorations or any form of artwork on it fits with the theme and what they want. So even though it may look boring, well, that's a business aspect. So it's not meant to be lively and jovial and fun, because that's going to be an agenda. I think it's going to have you do an ability. In addition to that, the insert, having the little rocket trays for each person, very thematic. Everything fits in a place. Everything works out well. The player boards, very user friendly. They have the spots for everything. They're double layered. They have the way a turn works right on the board. They have the iconography on there that makes sense. Everything works very well on the board as well. And then probably one of the best things in the game, which is saying a lot because of how beautiful and fantastic everything is, but it's the thing that I think definitely sets this apart from a lot of the heavier games that Brian and I play, was the player aid. It's a little booklet. So when Brian and I play games, a lot of times she's always asking, how do I get this? Or what is this used for? Or I need this, where can I find it? That is all covered in this booklet. You flip through the booklet. It has all the pertinent information you're going to need, for the most part, to play this game. So you can give each person a booklet and then teach them the game, and they can kind of look in the booklet and go off of what you're teaching them. And then they have that refresher. It has it on there, where do you need to get money? Or where can you go to get money? Where can you go to get supplies? And then it even has the checklist of, what do you need to do a rocket ship? All right, you need this. You do this action to do it. And in addition to all that, they even tell you the page in the main rule book if you need more information. So you'll have that player booklet to where you may not even need the rule book, or just on special circumstances is great. It was also good because I could just grab that and refresh myself the next time we play it. I just flipped through that. I'm like, all right, yep, that's how everything goes. Cool. All right, we're good to go. But yes, just overall, inside the box, a fantastic production. To me, well worth it. You are going to feel like you're getting your money's worth with this, just with the amount of content that is in there. So the two-player changes is there is kind of a dummy color. It doesn't block you off or do anything like that. It basically is going to be putting out 2 developments at the beginning of the game, and then you can use those developments just like you could any other players, paying the money to the supply, but it gives you another adjacency. You also put out their workers to have another bumping ability, to where you can bump their workers into your opponent can bump them into you, etc. So that way you are simulating and getting those funding bonuses more. In addition to that, the end game tracks are based on player count. And then when you do the quarterly meetings, you are going to add 2 more of those dummy developments. You're going to switch out one of their worker with an advanced worker, which switches up how they bump. And then in the second quarterly meeting, you're going to do the same thing, except putting out their second advanced worker and getting rid of their other basic worker. And then again, putting out more of those developments. So really, it doesn't affect the game, because you're still able to go and put your developments on those places. You can still go where they have the dummy players. It is more so basically mimicking having that third player who's building other developments that can give you adjacency to more areas if you're willing to pay, and having those extra workers there that are going to get bumped to kind of help cycle your workers so you can get those funding bonuses and don't always have to call a meeting. So those are the 2-player changes. All right, so I've already kind of started my thoughts on gameplay when I was talking about it a little bit with what's in the box and all the components. But this is a game that is going to look extremely heavy. This is a game that it does have quite a bit of thinking and planning and manipulating in it. So it is going to feel heavy and strategic. But it's going to be those decisions and not fully the mechanics or how things work. This is a game, also, like I said, it's going to take a bit to teach, because it's a worker placement game. Those games always do take a little bit longer to teach, because you're having to explain, all right, this location does this, this does this, this does this, this, and this. So you have to explain all the locations. So that does take a while to teach. This one also has where you're having to launch a rocket ship, and that's going to have multiple steps. And then, some of the places you get with like the advertising, to get customers, that's going to be a few different steps. So there's going to be steps to the process. But like I said, that is where that booklet is going to come in handy, because they can simply look in there. Like I said, a lot of times, especially when we play these heavier games, Bri has a hard time getting her head around the rules, or how certain things are going to work, or where she has to go, or how does she do these certain things. This one, she didn't have that big of a problem with. There were still very rare occasions where she'd have to ask me something, but the way everything flowed, the way the iconography went, and those booklets all help you be able to get into the game flow. The game flow itself does have that nice game flow of, all right, so first thing you need to do is you need to go ahead and you need to get rocket pieces. All right, now I got rocket pieces. What do I need to do next? I need to book a cruise. All right, well, before you book a cruise, you might want to get some customers there, or you can book a cruise and then you can advertise for your customers there, whichever order you want to do. Optimally, you want to book it first. That way your opponent doesn't come in and snag the people you advertise for, but hey, you do you in regards to that. But all right, now I got them. Now I got the cruise book. What do I need? You need to make sure you have your supplies ready to go. All right, got those. All right, now launch your ship. So it sounds very mechanical and systematic, but the way they implement it in here is it all makes sense and it all feels like these decisive decisions. And as I said, it's a worker placement game. And the really cool thing I like about this one, and the twist, is when you place someone there, you're going to be doing 2 actions. And there's a 2 actions where you are. Oh, by the way, I should mention I did a how to play. I'll link that back at the beginning of this bit. I just forgot to mention it because I'm just so excited to talk about the gameplay. So like I said, there's 2 locations there. And then if there's any development markers between you and the next ones, you can possibly use the 2 there. So when you place a worker, you can have up to 6 options of how you're doing things. So that really opens up the board, especially if you're getting a lot of your development markers out there. Most of the time, you will be able to do what you want to do. I mean, you can't bump yourself, so you can't go to the same exact location you are, but if you have those development markers built, well, then you can just go to the one next to you and then do that. And then you can go to the one over there and you can do that one even a 3rd time. Very rarely do you want to do the same action like 3 times in a row or 3 times before you might get bumped, but there is the option there. In addition to that, just the way a lot of the things work is you will start feeling like sometimes it's hard to get a resource, but then there'll be a way of, well, if you just do this and then this, then that's going to boost you up and you can get those resources. In addition to that, the one thing that we never really utilized much, but is an option, is so you have your, for some reason I want to say renown track, but I think it's maybe reputation track at the bottom, is at any point you can kick yourself back there to get a bunch of resources by choosing one, going back as far as you want, and getting like money or ads, etc. So there is that built-in mechanism, like as a last-ditch effort, like, all right, I really need this stuff. I'm just going to have to kick myself back on the reputation and try and get myself moving up there. And then the decision space doesn't even end there. Like I said, like, how are you going to build your rocket ships? You're going to want to try and base it off of the cruises you can book. Maybe you might do other cruises and hopefully they come up that utilize that. And then trying to advertise to these specific customers that are out there. But then you're not even limited to those, because you can grab some from the supply. They just cost more ads. So it is a game that can feel limiting, but they give you enough options that if you can get the resources, you can do what you want. Like I said, you can grab any color. It's just going to cost you. So you may feel limited, but you're not, because just grab some more ads and you're good to go. In addition to that, the places that you're putting yourself, those actions, for the most part, feel worthwhile. There's very few of them that you put there and you're like, oh, well, that really didn't do much. Maybe towards the end of the game where you're not having many options because you're kind of wrapping a few things up. But even that, it always feels like there is something for you to do, because you can always try and get it going so you can get another spaceship out, or launch another spaceship, or maybe get another development marker out, what have you. I gotta imagine it's extremely hard to get everything done in this game because of the way the game ends with those cubes getting added. Like, you're going to keep moving those cubes, because when you launch spaceships, they get added, and when you get these certain requirements, they're going to get added. So it is going to end. If I had any gripe with the game, that might be it. Is it always does feel like it ends a little too soon, that the end game does just kind of sneak up on you. And so we do kind of prefer to play maybe a little bit longer. Sometimes we have snuck the 3-player frames out there and played a bit longer game. But I can definitely see why they chose the numbers they did, because I think some people might find that then maybe overstaying its welcome, because then you're getting that 3, 4, 5 hour mark. Whereas if you do their one, you do get it done fairly quickly. And that was the other thing, is usually these bigger games will take us so much time, because like I said, Bry's trying to figure things out in the game and trying to maneuver this and trying to maneuver that. This one does a good job of defining the decision spaces you need to do to get what you need done. So there isn't a ton of like wasted, like, well, you know what, I think I just want to explore this, or I want to explore that. No, it is going to keep you focused on getting what you need to do done, which is going to help accelerate that gameplay and smooth it out, and not just have people elongating it for elongating reasons. Then finally, I'm going to talk briefly about the solo experience, because I personally did not play it solo, and that's not an indictment on the solo mode. I did look it over, I did think about doing it, but to me, there is enough that I have to think about in this game for me personally, that I didn't want to have this deck that I'm flipping over and then doing stuff for the bot player. It's smooth how they do it. It's basically flip a card, do the action that it says. The back of the other card gives you the numbers in case you need to do it. They have their board. They're going to do their own thing. Like I said, if you are able to play this game and be fine running a bot, you are going to enjoy the solo mode. It looks fantastic. It looks well developed. The entire game is well developed, so I know it's going to play good. It's just, I know me personally. I know my mental capability. I know my mental power I'm able to put towards a game, and I personally would not be able to do it. And that is the main reason I haven't played it. Again, not an indictment of saying it's stupid, it's paced out, nothing. No, it is. It looks nice. They go in detail. They have good rules for it. Everything. It's just, like I said, I know my mental power would get fried if I tried to do it. So that brings me to how it fits. And if you've watched this whole video so far, you will know maybe what I'm going to say. And I am going to say that this fits outstanding. This to me is a 10 out of 10 game. Like I said, this is a game that right out of the box, just unboxing it and getting it all together, made me excited. I went up and I told Brian, like, I cannot wait to get this table. This, like, just putting it back in the box excited me to that level. The fact how everything smoothly plays together. The fact that, like I said, those booklets make it easy to come back to after a bit of time away. Because we had played it once, and then we came back, I think it was like 3 weeks later, and again, using Brian's example, a lot of times she needs a big rules refresh, especially for these bigger games of how everything works. I was able to give her the booklet. I grabbed the booklet. We skimmed through it really quick. I basically just had to touch on a few details, and we were good to go. And then the other thing I even get in the replayability is that it's got two sides of the board, one with everything pre-printed. The other, the more advanced side, is that you basically can randomize all the locations and the technology and all that. So the replayability that's already built into here without even getting the expansions is still vast, because the locations or the actions may show up at different places. The different abilities of the expert workers, the different company goals, the different technologies. There's so much different stuff already in the game that it already adds that variability. And then toss in all the expansions and you just have an insane amount. And then they have even more stuff coming. Alrighty. So that's why, like I said, it is a outstanding fit, a 10 out of 10 for me. So if I can now get you to head down below and hit like, subscribe, comment, share, ring the bell. Let me know what about Galactic Cruise interests you. In addition to that, we have a link to Miniature Market down below. If you're in the market for board games, you can go ahead and use our link down below. Purchase games, we get a portion of those sales back here to the channel. In addition to Miniature Market, we have partnered with Dubby. Dubby is a powdered energy drink. So far, the flavors we have we've tried, we've really enjoyed. We've really liked them. It does its job. It perks me up. It gets me focused for the rest of the day. So you can go ahead and visit Dubby Energy and use the code MEEPLES, and then you will go ahead and get a discount. We'll get a portion of those sales, again, to help fund this channel and help us bring more games for you to view. Alrighty, so sail to the stars.